Talk to me a little bit about your anchoring technique. Let's say if you get a spot like that on a nest, give me some anchoring tips.
One of the things most private boaters really need to work on is the anchor gear that's on their boat and taking some time to learn how to use it. So I much prefer a claw or a Bruce style anchor and a length of chain. You know, standard rule of thumb is the length of your boat, but more is better. You know, for most private boats in the 25 to 35 foot range, something like that, 50 feet of chain, appropriate size anchor, and a long piece of rope, at least 300 feet. And we mark the rope every 50 feet so that you can figure out how much rope is out so you can compute your scope to know if you're going to stay anchored. When it's flat calm, it's not much of an issue. Just the way the anchor laying on the bottom is kind of holds you. When the wind's up, current's up, swells up, then you got to scope back. You have to know how much is out so you can get enough scope out so you stay put. So it's really important for not only the safety factor of having a good set of gear, but being able to put the anchor down on a spot and stay on the spot. Having a good set of gear is really important.
What about the noise of an anchor chain?
You know, when we're fishing shallow beaches, I think it's very helpful to make the least amount of noise possible. We try to hand it down whenever we can. You know, and you can't always do that depending on what your anchor setup is. Out in deep water, I don't think it makes any difference at all. But when we're fishing shallow beaches up there in 10, 15, 20 feet of water, yeah, I try to be as quiet as possible. Sea bass are stealthy. Yellows, not so much.
Joe, do you prefer, when you're fishing the yellowtail, do you prefer dropper loop or fly line?
Well, for one thing, you want to be either close to the structure or to the nest. So you want your bait to be going towards the spot. Now, like Mark said, today's fish finders, they're going to show you the bait, and you're also going to show you the fish. So if the fish are deep, well, I like to be a little closer to the spot, either to the nest or to the rock, and then use the dropper loop. Now, with dropper looping, I will not just strictly dropper loop, but have a dropper loop and have maybe an ounce sliding sinker, and also a fly line squid or sardine, squid preferably. So you want to cover the column from dropper loop to mid depth, and then also on the surface with the fly line squid.
When you say a little bit shallower, what do you determine a little bit shallower water to be?
I'm not, sorry.
A little bit shallower. You said that when I'm fishing a little shallower?
Yeah, no, when I'm fishing structure, I want to be close to that structure and have my baits going to that structure. Shallow water fishing, like say Little Harbor, we've had a few days in that place where we got limits in maybe in 30 minutes, and we're fishing in 15 to 20 feet of water. Now, in this case, you really probably want to use quarter-ounce sliders just to keep the squid just below surface so the birds don't get it. That's some good fishing there, and Mark is right. When you're fishing in that shallow water like Little Harbor or shallower areas, you want to be a little quiet, especially on Bongos 3. We have old chain and it makes a lot of racket. But in spite of that, we have caught limits in more than one occasion in that spot.
Mark, what about the moon phase when you're fishing the yellowtail? Does the moon phase seem to have a lot to do with that?
See, we got a 1 hour seminar and he asked me a 3 hour question. That's not fair. You know, a lot of people say, and I understand why they say it, that moon phase doesn't matter if you're going to eat some point in time, every day, whatever. I don't necessarily agree with that. So, in terms of moon phase, I pay very close attention to it, and I like the upswing for the full moon, and the upswing to the dark of the moon. Once you're past that, either full or dark, the backside of those moons typically are a little slower fishing. That's not to say you're not going to get a bite on any given day, but if I had to pick, if I was like planning a vacation, I would pick the upswing to either the dark or the full. Those are my favorite times. But, you know, I wrote a book about fishing Catalina Island, and I spent a lot of time talking about similar periods and current and moon, and I think it's one of those things that when you're adding up all the things that make a big difference, if you want to be a really, really, really good fisherman, it's one of those things that you need to pay attention to and adjust your timing to take advantage of the best possible times of both moon and lunar period and tides and current. It all goes together. It's all about conditions.
Is there an optimum full moon, like swing times into a full moon? Would it be midnight, dawn, dusk?
The optimum time around full moon is you got moon overhead or moon underneath right in the middle of the day. So those are going to be your best lunar periods. So those are the times typically that you're going to get your best bite during the day or at night. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that the fish work on the same schedule that we do. And that's one of the reasons I've been fortunate to be a good sea bass fisherman, because I don't mind fishing in the middle of the night if that's what it takes, and sometimes that's when your better fishing is. So, yeah, you're paying attention to the currents, the tides, the moon, and sometimes the best conditions are the middle of the night. And a lot of times it's cold and windy and rough and like whatever.
Joe, let's switch over to white sea bass. What are some of the conditions that you're looking for that are similar to the yellowtail but are different for white sea bass specifically?
Okay, with the white sea bass, and similar with the yellowtail, but particularly white sea bass, I'm looking for current. I have found that you need that current. Stronger the current, better the bite is. And it's, of course, the current is related to the moon phases, like we were saying before. So what you really need to get if you're fishing Catalina, get a good chart book, and it will show you the optimum currents. On the downswing or upswing is where the maximum current, that when I say maximum, is like maybe 2-3 knots of current you have at that point. So I'm looking for current. But besides current, some of these spots I have found that along the backside, all along the backside, all the white sea bass spots, they bite better for me when the current is going in to the island and down, in and down. I mean, when the current's swimming uphill, parallel to the current, to the island, we can't catch any white sea bass, at least in general. So you're looking for current that's going in and down, and you got a really good current going, but whenever the current's ripping uphill or really straight, parallel downhill, the bite isn't as good. So I'm looking for current, and particularly if that current is at 9:30 in the morning, it's maximum speed, then I want to be on my spot. Whatever the spot is that I have picked based on the bait and structure.
Mark, if the current is ripping uphill or downhill in any particular area on the backside of the island, does that mean it's going to be that way throughout the entire area, or are there spots that you can find current that's different than what you found, let's say, in your first spot?
He's giving me all the tough questions. Yeah, Catalina is a complicated island.
You wrote the book.
He did write the book. I did write the book. It's a complicated island, and there are general current patterns that you can look at, but a classic, the general patterns kind of hold true for the whole island in some respects, but like a perfect example is a little beach that's just up above Arrow Point on the front side of the island, where the current outside Arrow Point might just be roaring uphill, but because the point sticks out, it eddies around and the little beach fishes when the current's going downhill. So there's some local knowledge that really takes effect in fishing, some of the spots around the island. And just because the current in one place is going one way doesn't necessarily mean it's going like that everywhere else.
So you're constantly looking for that in and down current.
Well, spots fish different ways, and some like that, and some like uphill. So it really depends on some of the spots. I mean, one of the prime spots that we fish up west only fishes on uphill. So it's just like a little piece of the beach. It's just a little structure. So it's just, you know, what Joe was saying is true. You know, typically that downhill current, you know, we like that, but because there's so much variation in some of these little kind of like microclimates, you gotta, you know, and I've been fortunate to fish Catarina ever since I've been a little kid, and I've really paid a lot of attention, took a lot of notes, and that's what we summarize in the book is a lot of that stuff. But yeah, there's spots that fish totally different depending on what the current's doing, and it's not always doing the same thing on any given day. It's tricky.
Joe, I'm going to ask you another dumb question. How do you read the current? I pull up to the island in my boat, I'm idling back, and I'm looking around. How do I know which way the current's going? What am I looking for when I pull up to a spot?
Well, it can be number one giveaway is the kelp. Okay, if the kelp is up and it's just like straight up, you got no current. But the kelp will tell you which way the current's going, and also any kind of traps, lobster traps or fish traps, or any kind of flotsam. So those are indications as to what the current's going. And there's nothing wrong with miscalculating and anchoring a little bit off. You know, you can, after you anchor the boat, the wind and the current will settle your boat, and you might have to re-anchor again. You really want to do your baits as close, regardless of fishing, you know, either fishing dropper loop or fly line to that spot. So it's just trial and error, but you'll learn. Number one is the kelp.
And a lot of time that current and the wind can be opposite directions, right?
Yes. Now when current is strong and the wind is strong, and sometimes the current is so strong your stern is into the wind while you're anchored. Those conditions when the current and wind are opposing are really tough to fish. Okay, and that's the time is because your baits are going to go to your anchor. You cast it off the stern and they go onto the anchor. When that happens, it's unfishable. Pull up the anchor and drift. You're going to find out that you're going to have very slow drift because current and wind are opposing, and you're just pretty much going to very slow drift over your high spots, and it can be very, very productive.
How important, Mark, is it to get there and anchor up? Is it mandatory to get there in the middle of the night and anchor up on a spot, or can you get there first light, or can you get there prior to high tide?
Well, whenever possible, you know, the standard rule of thumb for fishing is time on the water and turns on the prod. So the more time that you have to be on the water doing whatever you're doing, the more productive you're going to be. But like, we do a lot of fishing on the squid grounds. You know, we're going to see a lot of that here, you know, over the next couple of weeks. There's a lot of squid at Catarina right now, and you go rolling out to the squid grounds. And the guys almost universally, not always of course, but almost universally, the guys that get there in the dark, light up, pitch their bait, and stay on the anchor, you know, a certain amount of that fish, whether it be all the sea bass, it gathers up around the boat. So I think there's a big advantage in just being there, you know, plus you got more time. So, you know, if you launch your boat at 6 in the morning and maybe get a scoop of bait from the receiver and run over and come rolling into the backside into the fleet at, you know, 8:30 or 9 o'clock, you know, maybe you're going to catch a fish or two. But the guys that have been sitting there all night, you know, maybe are sitting there having breakfast and Bloody Marys and just cleaning up, admiring their limits of fish laying on the deck. I cannot begin to tell you how many trips were done by the time it cracks gray daylight. When it starts cracking gray, a lot of times the fish bite and then it's over and you're done. And you guys come rolling in a little bit later, you just don't get a piece of it.
That's true. Joe, if you're unfortunate enough to not be able to get any live squid, when you're fishing the fresh dead or dead squid, how do you like to rig that up?
Okay, that's a good question. We've had a few good days on the backside of the Palisades when rough weather, we couldn't get, the bait boats weren't out, nobody was fishing for bait. We took some fresh frozen squid with us. And we again had limits. you know, this is many years of fishing and many days of fishing, so it doesn't happen every day. But what I'm trying to say that you can catch as many fish sometimes with frozen squid as you can with live squid. Now, when I have frozen squid, what I like to use is jigging at the bottom, heavy jig, white glow in the dark with treble hook, and pin maybe 2 or 3 frozen squids on that, on the bottom, and about maybe 2 feet above it, make a dropper loop, and with a 3/0 hook, put another squid on that, just a single squid. And that, you set up that, go to the bottom, hit the bottom, come up maybe 2 or 3 cranks, and put it in the rod holder, and you go ahead with your Bloody Mary. And then let that.
Are you fishing a jig head or actually like a talus?
No, I'm using like the Salas big 6 or 7 heavy jigs, okay, with treble hook. That is probably for frozen squid. It's probably the best for me as a good producer.
You like having that bait on top of the jig too, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah, yes, I do. It's just more bait you got in the water, and more fishing on that trap.
Let's dig down a little bit deeper, Mark. Let's talk about how important is the murky water.
Murky water, offshore water, well, that's more of a shallow water thing. You know, when we're up fishing beaches, and when you're in, and again, we're talking sea bass here more than yellowtail, although you do get some yellows up on the beaches once in a while. But when those fish are in there in 10, 15, 20 feet of water, that layer of off-color dirty water, it's almost like them swimming along underneath a layer of kelp. You know, it offers some sense of security, breaks up the light from the sun, and a perfect example is we were over there just before this series of storms here in late January, and we had some pretty good signal on the sea bass up, we were fishing in 2.5 fathoms, 15 feet of water, in dirty water, off-color water. And a lot of the fish that we were hooking, we would cast out with a light lead head, with 3/8 or just a single hook with a 3/8 or quarter-ounce sinker. And that bait would only sink a foot or 2 into the water before we would get bit. These fish are just right underneath that dirty water layer, just down 3 or 4 feet. So it's a real important part of fishing shallow water sea bass is that dirtier water. Crystal clear water, I fished more than a few days over there, and I don't think I have ever caught a sea bass in shallow water during the day in crystal clear water. They're just not going to be there.
And that's what Joe was saying about covering all depths. Even if you're only 15 feet of water, you want to have baits from 3 or 4 feet below the surface all the way down.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And one of the things that's come out of it, it's a whole other subject, but one of the things that came out of our coastal fishing for these really big ones here along the coast is, we get into an area, we make our bait at night, and we're shutting all the lights off completely. It's all completely dark, and a lot of the big fish we're catching in 90 or 100 feet of water out on the bait grounds are on fly line, super light sinkers or light lead heads. I mean, they're right up on the top a lot of times. Now there it's completely dark. We're not worrying about, the sun shining down and swooping them or anything like that. But yeah, you want to be covering that water column no matter what depth of water you're fishing. You want something on the top, something mid-water, something on the bottom. You never know exactly where the fish are going to swim through. Or the ones that are swimming around are going to bite.
Joe, would you want to be fishing, would you want your baits right in that transition between the murky and the clear water, or do you want to try to present them more into the murky water?
That's all going to depend on where the bait is and what you're metering. There is really no set rules about that. But in general, if you find a break between clean and murky water, that's usually a good area to be right there.
Right on the border.
I mean, especially if you're metering bait or fish.
What about if you swing around the backside and there's a bunch of squid boats making bait? And you're metering bait, you're metering fish. How close or how far away do you want to be from the guys that are actually making bait commercially? Are they having a negative effect on the fish?
Well, the kind of the standard rule of thumb is about 1/8 of a mile. You know, that's a decent working distance. You know, we try to respect that maybe a little more than they do when they're coming up to us. Just whatever, it is what it is. But, you know, the guys on the lifeboats, you know, when they're over there, a whole bunch of bait gathered up around them. You know, I don't necessarily like to sit right next to that. You know, I'm kind of a loner anyway. I just like being by myself. So I try to find a little nugget of bait or conditions or whatever it is we're looking for away from that squid fleet whenever possible. Because they don't, not necessarily just have the lights. They got, especially when the seiners are working, man, they got a huge amount of racket clanking and banging with everything that they're doing. So yeah, I'd rather be away from them.
One of the most frustrating things I've experienced when I'm over there is I get into a spot and I'm metering fish, and I'm metering bait, nothing's biting. How long should I just sit there and wait for these fish to decide to eat? Is there a rule of thumb?
Yeah, see, this is all the tough ones. Yeah, that's a tough one. And a lot of it just, you know, a lot of it, I decide based on what the moon, tide, currents are doing. Because if it's right there, it's slack conditions, and you've got a reason to believe the conditions are going to change, then I'm going to sit. And, you know, especially if you're marking good fish, you know, we set on spots, or sometimes we set up in the dark and start dropping and chumming, or marking sea bass, but they're not biting. And we set them for several hours sometimes. If you're marking fish and you have a reason to think that something's going to change to make a bite, that's one reason to sit. And another reason to sit is if you don't have a better option. You know, I learned years and years ago that you never eat fish to find fish. So you're marking fish, maybe there's a reason they're not biting. They're waiting for the current, they're waiting for some tide, they're waiting for the moon, something along those lines. And if you think that that's going to change, then yeah, I'm pretty hesitant to leave them. You know, we were over at Catalina a couple weeks ago. We sat for 2 hours with very little action, but I was marking a lot of fish. You know, and they just didn't have a better place to go. So I figured, oh, we're going to bite one of these hours, so we'll see. And they did.
You want to be the hub and not the spoke. Joe, do you have any idea how far a school of white sea bass can travel around the island in maybe a 24 or 12-hour period? Do you have any idea?
Well, a tough question for me now. You know, I really don't know, but I know this, that I good fishing one day for white sea bass on the squid nest or in a structure, and I go back 24 hours later, and there they are again, catching sometimes 2 or 3 days in a row at the same spot. And then finally you go there and they're gone. Now, it's where they go, it's just like, there are, for white sea bass, there are spots that they hang out. At least I think, and Mark says that in his book too.